The ACLU puts the Ten Commandments on trial. Hi, I'm Matt Staver, founder and chairman of Liberty Counsel. Joining me is Shawn Akers, the vice president of Middle Eastern Affairs for Liberty Counsel. And we're going to be talking about Giles County, Virginia, which I recently attended a court hearing in Roanoke, which is the federal district court area for Giles County. This particular school, going all the way back to 1999, as a result of the Columbine situation, decided to try to bring normality back to the school and ultimately calm the nerves of the students and the parents and the community. They did a lot of different things. They brought in Darrell Scott and many other people as well to talk to the school officials and talk to the people. One of the things that they did was they wanted to go back to our historical roots. And so they checked with the superintendent at the time, the Virginia Attorney General opinion, and the Virginia Department of Education, and they put up the Ten Commandments, and on top of that was the United States Constitution, which is actually larger than the Ten Commandments, and it stayed in place for 11 years, from 99 until December of 2010, with absolutely no controversy at all, until the Freedom from Religion Foundation sent a letter, and then the controversy erupted. And this ultimately results in the current litigation that we're involved in now.
Matt, you're a veteran of these type of Ten Commandment cases where schools have wanted to show the history of our legal and governmental system by showing different types of documents that were involved and inspirational and foundational to our systems of law and government, and you've pretty well gotten it down to an art. How did this particular case compare to the others that you've handled?
Well, this is a very unique case because the superintendent who then was back in 1999 is now retired. There's another superintendent there at the Giles County School Board now, but the superintendent in his deposition was very clear that the reason he wanted to put this up was to send the message that we're the same after Columbine as we were before Columbine. Let's think back to our roots. Think back to who we are as a people. Let's look at some foundational documents. So obviously the Constitution and also the Ten Commandments. And at the time, they were also undergoing what's called the standards of learning for Virginia. They were rolling out new standards of learning that would be required for all the schools. Part of that standards of learning requires going back to our history, going back to the roots, United States, Virginia history, and looking at the development of our government, our laws, and our systems. So it was very consistent. No one complained. Doe 1, who is the minor child, and Doe 2, who is the parent, knew about these. No one complained. No one had a problem. When the Freedom from Religion Foundation sent this letter in December 2010, the current superintendent reacted by just taking them down. In January of 2011, the board voted to put them back up. In February of 2011, they then, on the advice of their counsel, voted to take them down. But in the meantime, a member of the community, Bob Lilly, who's an attorney, who now is the Commonwealth attorney, but at the time was a practicing attorney in private practice, he began to think. He was raised in Virginia. He was taught Virginia history and United States history. He went to Colonial Williamsburg as part of a field trip. He went to Washington, D.C. He went to Monticello, where Jefferson's home is. He learned all this rich history. He then began to study the standards of learning in Virginia and the curriculum. He began to do some research, and he says, it can't be one of these other things. It can't be that you can never have the Ten Commandments, which the ACLU is saying. On the other hand, it can't be that you can just simply put them up there and force people to be indoctrinated by some religious tenet. There's got to be some middle ground. There's got to be some historical way to do this, to have these different documents that are historical and foundational. So as a result of that, he came up with this display. He proposed it, and that's the display that was under litigation. This display has... It's called the Foundations of American Law and Government display. It has the Magna Carta. And what he did was he said the central part of this display is the Declaration of Independence, the birth of America.
Right.
And there are certain things that went before that, after it, and there's some contemporary manifestations of it. What went before it was the Magna Carta, the idea that we are under law, that the king is not above law. The Mayflower Compact, the first compact here of a civil body politic when they came to America. And then, of course, the Ten Commandments that even predates all of that, that was so influential. Then you have the Declaration of Independence. And then following the Declaration of Independence, you have the Bill of Rights. You have also you have the Statute of Religious Freedom that was drafted by Thomas Jefferson. You have the Declaration of Rights that was drafted by George Mason in Virginia. That was actually the precursor to the Declaration of Independence. And you have these other documents. You have the First Charter of Virginia. Or you have also, for example, the contemporary manifestations. You have the Lady Justice and you have the Star-Spangled Banner. Right. So that went up. And the ACLU objected. And so now out of all these documents, and there's more we can talk about that actually came up as part of this, the ACLU complains only against one document, and that is the Ten Commandments.
You know, it's amazing, Matt, when we've talked about Saul Alinsky on several programs in the past, it's amazing to watch the ACLU and the Freedom from Religion Foundation use really an Alinsky tactic here. One of the things that Alinsky would do, Matt, he said that you have to come in and bring chaos. You have to bring disorder to an already organized system so you can remake it the way that you want it. We've got an American legal system that has worked perfectly well all these years, and the Ten Commandments are an absolute part of and foundational piece of of our legal and political system. You can see that groups like the Freedom from Religion Foundation want to remove God from everything that they're doing, so everything that we do as a nation. So they come in and want to say that of all the documents, you can put up anything else, but we're going to take out anyone that has some reference to God in it.
Well, and the interesting thing, of course, the Magna Carta has reference to God. Mm-hmm. The Mayflower Compact references God. The Declaration of Independence references our Creator, and they're not targeting those yet, right? Because those are clearly historical documents. But what they want to do is make the Ten Commandments solely a religious document. And there's no question that it is a religious document that is very influential to Judaism and Christianity, and also other religions as well, but particularly to Judaism and Christianity. But at the same time, the Ten Commandments have influenced our American law and government. They've influenced Western civilization. The Ten Commandments has ethical monotheism as part of it, that there is one God, and as a result of that, you can have order, and you can have rights, you can have equality because there is one God. You don't have the Greek idea of multiple polytheistic gods warring against each other, and so therefore it's just power and lust that controls them, and their actions are arbitrary, and we're just pawns in the process, so you can't ever have any assurance of stability or discoverability. Ethical monotheism, where you have one God, changed all that historically. And then the laws and the equality and the rule of law flows from that. And so it went through Western legal tradition and influenced us throughout Europe and obviously in the United States of America.
You know, that's the real fascinating thing here, Matt, is if you trace this back, starting not just with our founders, but where our founders got their ideas from thinkers like Blackstone and Locke, what you find, Matt, is that those ideas traced not back, they weren't birthed in Europe, they traced back to the Judeo-Christian teachings of Jerusalem. And at the very center of the Judeo-Christian teachings is the Ten Commandments. Our legal system has a direct historical, factual tie to the Ten Commandments. So to pull them out as an act of animus toward religion rather than historical accuracy it's intellectually dishonest, and if it were reversed, it would be deemed something that were promoted by hate. It would be the equivalent of hate speech or a hate crime that the left so often wants to employ.
Well, there's a lot more that we can talk about, and we didn't even get to the greater display. I mean, we got 29 documents that are on the wall right now. One of those documents is under attack, and that is the Ten Commandments. The other 28 are fine so far. Right now, it's one of those 29 documents that are 29 frames that's targeted by the ACLU. We'll pick up a little bit with that tomorrow and finish the issue of what's going on in Giles County and the broader implications of this particular case. You can go to Liberty Counsel's website at lc.org, and you can also call 1-800-671-1776. You can order the booklet that we wrote called The Ten Commandments in American Law and Government. It is a fascinating book because it talks about the history of the Ten Commandments as it influenced our American law and government. One of the things that we found is it had more influence than we even imagined. the reason why we have all these Ten Commandment monuments all over the United States, including 50 or so displays in and outside the building at the United States Supreme Court, is because of the significant influence that the Ten Commandments has had on American law and government and even some of our common sayings and the idea that there is a rule of law. Go to Liberty Counsel's website and ask for the Ten Commandments in American law and government, or call 1-800-671-1776. That's 800-671-1776.